are you enjoying Stahma's arc this season? I'm loving it.
I'm loving it. You know, something else about the show that I really love is it's such an ensemble piece. So when I watch it, I really do get lost in it, and I'm an avid fan of the other people in my cast. And it's such an ensemble that often, you know, I'll only work with certain people. So I really haven't seen a lot of the cast's work until it airs, and you know, it makes it really enjoyable for me to watch. Stahma in the first season is very different from Stahma in the second season, and that's been really fun to play.
I just really like how, like, even her body movements and, you know, the way you don't drop your eyes anymore, and how you really come out of your shell.
Well, actually, you know, a lot of that I figured she would still have. So there are times when, you know, she is beginning to assert herself, but some of it is learnt behaviour, and also some of it is quite useful. So sometimes when she wants to use it, she'll turn it on. So last episode was the episode with the holy man, the Castathan holy man, and you see her walking through the marketplace with her hood down with Christy, and then suddenly you see her pulling her hood up, and Christy's like, "What's the matter?" And she's like, "It's the holy man." And then she goes into full geisha, and she starts doing all the kind of ritualistic Castathan hand movements and showing that she's submissive. And she's not really. She's just doing what is expected to kind of to get her end. And when that doesn't work, she does something very different.
Can you tease what's coming up for the rest of the season there?
She became pretty resentful towards Datak in the first season, especially what he made her do to Kenya. I do believe that she loved Kenya, and I think that she's now very angry, and she didn't know quite how angry she was until Datak returned, and then he was, you know, violent and aggressive as a Castathan man would be to a Castathan woman who has betrayed him, and now she's openly angry with him, and now I think she's really going to regret her decision to follow Datak's command and kill Kenya. And I think she's asserting herself, but she's also learning who she is, because who she was so dictated to her whole life that she never knew who she was. And so I think it's liberating in this season, and it's fun to watch her play with her new power. Although she always had power, but it always had to be sideways, whereas now she can be more overt. But I think also you're going to see her struggling with some of the past decisions that she's made.
What about your relationship with your son? It's really different this time. It's just everybody's character is different.
How is it? I don't think it's different.
I do. I mean, you're treating him differently. Like you belittle him in this season more than last season. It was like you loved him and everything was, you know. But now it's like.
I don't think I really. I think it's the same relationship, but you're just seeing a little more of it. I think that he was always my little baby, and he was such a sweet soul, and also he's a young soul because he's my son, that he was very easy for me to control, and I had no reason. I wasn't questioning the status quo. So all the roles in the first season were quite traditional Castathan roles, and although that might have been stifling and repressive to Stahma, it was also kind of easy. And now she's challenging it. He's going to pull back from that, obviously. So when he pulls back from that, then she is going to pull him into place. But she had never had any reason to do that before. But I definitely think it's the same relationship. It's just that, I mean, who would you rather run the Tarr empire, Alec Tarr or Stahma? She's not wrong. And I don't think she's never belittling him for the sake of belittling him. She loves him. She loved him in the first season. She loves him in the second season. But he needs to be controlled, and Datak's not around, and she is asserting herself for the first time in a culture that doesn't like women to assert themselves, so she has to have a stern talking to him.
Anybody?
am I making this up? Because something that I've noticed is that there seem to be more grays this season, and you seem to be wearing more lipstick. Is that, am I seeing that? Is that sort of a way that she's asserting herself?
I think that... I actually think that the makeup evolved a lot. You know, when we first started the makeup tests for Defiance, there were so many people with opinions. You know, on a show you've got, you know, directors, producers, DOPs just on the floor. Then you've got studios, you've got networks, you've got, you know, on this we've got a video game, and how the Castertons looked was the cause of endless discussion. In fact, it was almost more difficult how the Castertons looked because the other aliens have got full-on prosthetic heads and plastic stuck onto them. They're clearly aliens. Whereas other than the makeup, other than our colouring, there is nothing that is different about us to humans other than, you know, our customs and our makeup. So at some point I must post on Twitter some of the early makeup tests. They were really frightening. They were, you know, I looked like that I just kind of finished filming an ABBA video at one point, and you know, it was kind of all over the place. And then I really think they were worried that we wouldn't look enough different. And then I think that when we started filming, you know, they remembered, actors bring something to it, and like the mythology and you know, the way we move, and so I think they realized that they didn't have to do quite so much. Yeah.
Was the makeup easier in the second season then?
No. Oh. Listen, it might have changed slightly, but and the way it's lit, obviously we like me to make me look as normal as possible, but I basically have white face. Like I'm painted with paint this thick, and if it's not put on thick enough, then my skin shows. So you know, it's painted on like the most extreme Halloween costume you've ever worn. I wear that every day. It's like the Halloween that never ended. It was fun for 24 hours. And then it just kept on going.
Has that been the most challenging part, or is there other challenges?
It is one of the most challenging things, yeah. It's you know, it can take some of the fun out of it sometimes because you're so limited, but then, you know, it's my job, so you have to find ways of using how limited it is. So, you know, I'm also like corseted. I'm also, you know, some of my costumes are so restrictive that, you know, I'm kind of like in between shots, I'm kind of like getting other people to kind of rub my shoulders because I can barely move, and so, you know, I can't twist my neck properly, and you know, I'm wearing platforms like this, so it's difficult for me to get up and down, and so, but then you realise these are my conditions. How do I make them work for me? So you make it start part of the alien. So you kind of come up like this, or you know, you kind of plot. You think about how you're going to get up at the beginning of the scene because it's so difficult, and then you make it into some kind of weird alien thing, and you know, just make it fun.
How difficult are those bath scenes? Is the water heated?
The water is actually not too bad. It's you know, there have been times when the temperature's been off, and now they veer on the side of warmth. They have to be careful though, because sometimes you get so warm you start to kind of perspire the makeup off. Somebody tweeted the other day, they asked me if the pasties come off in the water. I'm like, no, do the pasties stay on in the water? And I'm like, no, but they do float. Which is rather mortifying when you have your son and your husband there, and suddenly you've got something bobbing along and you're like, oh, that's part of me. How lovely. And they're very chivalrous, and they'll try and kind of catch it and pass it to me without anyone seeing. But yeah, it's pretty mortifying. I'd like to do one of those bath scenes where the whole of the set behind the camera have to take their clothes off as well. I feel like that would make it much easier for me. It is an odd thing because, you know, I come from Europe where, you know, people go to beaches and in different states of undress and nudity, and so I'm not maybe as you know, it doesn't bother me quite as much as maybe it would for a culture that, you know, that haven't seen that or been to those places, but it just doesn't get any easier, and I think it is because other people are fully clothed. There's something very makes you feel very vulnerable, you know.
So what was the most surprising thing, or the thing that sort of you weren't expecting when you came into this role for this show?
Well, you know, I think the thing that surprised me was I want to make her as alien as possible, so I'm constantly, but I want it to be real as well. So I'm often thinking, what is it that makes something different, and trying to make those choices, but base them in something that we still recognise. Otherwise, it's just too out there, it's too weird. You know, it's not a conceptual piece. But what that means is I'm constantly studying what it means to be human, and that's quite a beautiful thing to be studying. The thing about this season that I alluded to earlier is she's now living on Earth, and now she's surrounded by 7 other alien species, and the ones that where the drama usually lays is her with other Cassithans or her with other humans, and so there's a certain humanization that happens to her. And last year when I was here, the Comic-Con, people were asking me, is she a bad character? You know, they wanted that kind of, is she a bad character, is she a good character? And the thing I love about Defiance is even the bad characters have redeeming, humanizing and good qualities about them, and the good characters really are massively flawed. I love the way that we brought the Earth Republic in, and you're like, hey, here are some people we can hate, and then you have that scene with Berlin and you realize she's just a child of this time, of this war, and it's heartbreaking. And then she gets back to her propaganda, and you know, you don't know how to feel, and I think that's a really good set of emotions to instill in your audience. And with Stahma, she is an alien, and I said last time I was here, you don't hate a scorpion you don't judge a scorpion for being a scorpion. You might want to keep out the scorpion's way because it's going to sting you, but there's not a bad scorpion and a good scorpion. A scorpion's just a scorpion. However, in season 2, you see her start to wake up, and you see her start to look around, and I think she realizes she's a scorpion. And that is quite heartbreaking because she didn't know what she didn't know, and now Kenya's gone.